Did the Denver Broncos pave the way for the Seattle Seahawks to claim victory in Super Bowl 60? And what did the big game teach us about the most important need for Sean Payton and Bo Nix going into the 2026 season? All things to come on today's rundown. Thank you so much for joining us. While you're here, make sure you like and subscribe to that Denver Sports 1043 The Fan YouTube channel. You can find us at Denver Sports 1043 on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also watch us live on X or on Facebook. Regardless of where you watch, we love you. We appreciate you. Be sure to like, comment, share, and turn on those post notifications so that you never miss a moment with us. Want to get into a couple of different things in reaction to last night's Super Bowl, where the Seattle Seahawks claimed a resounding victory over the New England Patriots. And I think it left a lot of people with some mixed emotions and feelings here in Broncos country, including some of the members on the team. But before we get into that, let's just look at the game itself, because I think what we saw was evidence that the path to the Super Bowl in the AFC was absolutely everyone's for the taking. And I think there's a fair argument that would say that the New England Patriots, who ultimately claimed the AFC bid in Super Bowl 60, maybe necessarily weren't the most deserving or the most capable team of competing on that stage against the Seattle Seahawks. Drake May and the Patriots looked like they were in a rut and in a funk from the get-go. Kenneth Walker was able to control the game for Seattle and really give people a frame of reference or an evidence to suggest that the Patriots offense that we saw in the AFC Championship game against the Broncos wasn't simply hamstrung or hindered by the fact that they were playing in a blizzard-like snow condition. It had other people feeling other things, though. If you were on social media during the course of yesterday's game, you saw a pretty significant faction of former Bronco players and current Bronco players all feeling the same thing and communicating it in the same way. You had PJ Locke, the safety for the Broncos, saying this game is making me even more sick to my stomach that we lost. Cry me a river? You bet I am. How about the former reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Patrick Surtain, with a simple but effective, thoughtful emoji saying, I wonder how this game would have looked if things had gone differently. Alex Singleton being blunt and straightforward about it. Today sucks, but man, is it even more motivating. And one of the newest Denver Broncos who joined the club going into the AFC Championship game against New England because of Bo Nix's injury, hard not to imagine what a healthy Broncos team looks like versus this Seattle team. And yeah, let's be honest, okay? The final score would indicate that it was a rout of the New England Patriots. And frankly, the final score doesn't, in my opinion, always indicate how competitive the game was. Seattle went wire to wire, never trailing against the Patriots. But this also was a 12-0 game late in the second half. And it wasn't until the fourth quarter where Seattle, with a costly turnover on Drake May and a defensive touchdown, really started to pull away. Neither team scored a touchdown until 13 minutes and change into the fourth quarter, when Barner, the tight end for the Seahawks, was able to finally connect with Sam Darnold for a touchdown pass. The Broncos sent a pretty clear message on social media, from Patrick Surtain to Alex Singleton to PJ Locke to Ben DiNucci. You had former Broncos standout safety TJ Ward also putting his thoughts out there in similar fashion on social media. They believed that they should have been there. And obviously the way things went with Bo Nix's ankle prevented them from doing that. But I think this was a very validating Super Bowl for the Denver Broncos, both from their own words, as you saw on your screen just a minute ago, and if you're a member of Broncos country or simply a citizen here in the Mile High City that was able to observe this Broncos team and factor forward what things would have looked like with a healthy Bo Nix and what things would have looked like on the ground with a J.K. Dobbins returning as he was projected to, had the injury timeline and the Broncos playoff push allowed to happen. I absolutely think this is a team that could have gone toe-to-toe with the Seattle Seahawks at full health and full strength and potentially take home a second Lombardi trophy in a span of 10 years. But it didn't end up that way. And I think that, to Alex Singleton's point in that tweet, I think this will be a motivating factor because this isn't a what if that says, you had to project a lot of things and tie half of your brain behind your back to steal a Zach Baezism from the drive to make this happen. That Broncos team absolutely looked like, despite some of the inconsistencies on offense and the slower starts that Sean Payton was plagued with week after week, that was a team that could have put Seattle's offense with Kenneth Walker and Sam Darnold in a little bit more jeopardy. That was a team that would have probably had more success bottling up Seattle's passing game. As good as Christian Gonzalez was in spurts, he didn't have a lot of help from a secondary perspective. And I just felt like the Broncos had the momentum coming off of a shootout game against the Bills, where frankly, I think they would have approached the game a little bit differently. And who knows how it would have shaken out. Even if they would have lost, they would have been validated by being on that stage and showing that they belong in the first place. And I think the conversation about the Denver Broncos post Super Bowl 60, if they had been in it, would have been different than it is against the New England Patriots in a pretty significant fashion. It is time to hit the turn, presented by the Birdie Bar, Louisville's premier outdoor golf bar and entertainment venue. With their heated patio and miniature golf setup, they have the perfect cure for your winter blues. There was another question, I think, that was being asked around the Mile High City and in Broncos country when it came to the post-viewing experience of Super Bowl 60. And that was a potential lesson or importance and position of need that's come forward in light of Seattle's performance against the Patriots. Because now here in Broncos country, everything is shifting forward. The page is not just being turned, the book is being closed on the 2025-2026 season with the Super Bowl now in the rear view. And all eyes are headed on 2026 with the momentum that this Broncos team, coming off of a number 1 seed, 14-3 season, first round bye, an AFC championship game appearance, with the feeling of emptiness that is there because of the Bo Nix injury. Everyone over at Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit, as voiced by Greg Penner, as voiced by Sean and George Payton, as voiced by the players themselves, and then backed up on social media as it was last night from all the different player accounts who were chiming in on the game. There is a serious feeling of not revenge, but hunger, determination, and frustration with a need for validation, I think, that is coming out of here for these players to say, we can say it all we want because we know we should have belonged in that game and things didn't happen our way, and that's sometimes what happens in life. But you're going to see how it manifests itself in 2026. If the Broncos are going to return to the stage at the AFC Championship where they just found themselves in the last month, and then eclipse that stage and find themselves at Super Bowl 61 representing the AFC, watching the Seahawks and Patriots game made it pretty clear to me that there's one significant thing that they need to address, basically above all else. And it has to do with the running back for the Seattle Seahawks. Kenneth Walker's 156 all-purpose yards, 135 on the ground with 27 carries, and a couple of receptions for 26 yards. What number 9 did to the New England Patriots, who have a stout enough defensive front in their own right, to control an ugly back-and-forth defensive field position battle, allowing the Seahawks to chip away and accumulate a 12-0 lead before the floodgates finally busted open. That is what the Denver Broncos were missing, certainly after J.K. Dobbins went down, but even at early points of the season as they were continuing to try to find their footing. And the running back room, as it stands now, has the potential to look a lot different than it did last year. J.K. Dobbins very well may not be a part of this running back room in 2026. And even if he is, he didn't make it more than 2.5 months into the season without an injury that left him sidelined for the remainder of the year, as it turned out. The Broncos may not be able to go out and get Kenneth Walker in free agency, who immediately becomes an unrestricted free agent. I assume the Seattle Seahawks will want to retain him, as will several other teams be vying for his services, from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Denver Broncos, potentially to the Washington Commanders. They may not be able to go out and get K9, but I think Kenneth Walker showed emphatically how valuable and vital and crucial a running back of the alpha variety, the A1 type of back that can put a game on his shoulders and his legs and carry them to victory on the largest stage, the Denver Broncos don't have that. They managed to find a way to piece and cobble it together with J.K. Dobbins on the front half of the season and R.J. Harvey coming on late as an all-purpose weapon with Bo Nix's legs taking heavy emphasis in the postseason. But they cannot count on replicating that strategy and expecting the same results. The running back position, be it in free agency with the likes of a Breece Hall, potentially a Kenneth Gainwell, or a Kyron Williams, or a Kenneth Walker, getting that position shored up is priority number one, or should be, for the Denver Broncos going into 2026 if they want to replicate and surpass the success they had in 2025. Time will tell if they decide to go that direction and if they are successful in free agency and or the draft in doing what they ultimately fell a bit short of last offseason. But regardless, Super Bowl 60 to me showed just how vital and crucial that mission is going to be for Sean Payton and George Payton to give help to Bo Nix and bring a little bit of extra life into this offense. It's going to be a fascinating week to keep tabs on. We've got the Olympics in full swing. We learned that Jamal Murray is going to be a participant in the NBA's three-point shooting contest over the weekend and how that could potentially continue to expand his profile as the Nuggets continue to push toward a championship berth or a run in the postseason that is nearing and dearing every single week. The Avalanche are in the same boat. They are on the Olympic break right now, and they kind of sputtered going into it a little bit more than maybe some thought that they would. Will they hit the ground running after the Olympic break and kind of pick up the torrid pace that they started to begin the year? Will Gabe Landeskog be able to maintain his health and status in his first games back since his injury on January 4th against the Panthers, which won't be suiting up for the Avalanche? All things that remain to be seen, as well as an NHL trade deadline that looms on the horizon. We will be here to chronicle it all for you at Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan. Make sure you like and subscribe to our Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan YouTube channel at Denver Sports 104.3 on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and we will catch you tomorrow at noon for the next rundown.
I do what I love.